So, Jeyan, thanks for your time for this conversation. We've known each other a number of years, and obviously one of the things we've been talking more recently about is around change, especially in the time that we currently find ourselves in COVID-19 coronavirus. And I know you've got lots of perspectives around sort of the idea of change. And again, I think the quote I always remember around change is that the only consistent is change. Over to you. This is obviously your opportunity to have. You've got 3 to 5 minutes, however long you want, to talk about your perspective on change in this current time. So over to you.
Thank you very much, James. Thanks for having me for this discussion. Yeah, I mean, that quote is quite important for me. There is only one thing that is constant in our lives, and that is change. So I take a good look at that and always remember that things always change. And right now we are going through a massive change in our lives, and it's not always easy to embrace change. And just look at the realities that we have at this moment with COVID-19 pandemic. It has brought many changes to how we live our life, how we commute, how we interact with our colleagues, how we do our daily routines. So we face with uncertainty at this moment. And this COVID-19 pandemic has altered our daily routines. It put financial pressures on us. It created a social isolation. Right now, we worry about getting sick. We worry about carrying the virus to our loved ones, the vulnerable parents. We constantly think how we can get out of this situation, how long the pandemic will last, and what the future is. So we just had this discussion, what is new normal for us? And no one knows about it. But this information overload, this stress, we have that in our lives, and we prepare ourselves for this new normal. And we just realized that our lives that we know is changing, and it's not easy. So a lot of people still get connected to the past, like, oh, I remember the days when I was traveling. Oh, I remember the days when I was having coffee with my colleagues. I remember the days we were partying out. This is gone maybe for a while. We will not have concerts. We will not have big events, the sporting events, other things. It's going to change. The way they are conducted, it's going to change. And it changes the way we do our business, the way we connect with our colleagues, partners, business organizations. So I just wanted to take a few seconds back and raise a flag that like this change is a massive thing in our lives. It is constant. We can avoid it, but we can look at it in a way so it is less hard in our lives. So I came up with an article recently. I wrote that article and I put my 22 years of perspective on change management and how I handled change in my life and what were the key principles. So yes, the number one principle we talked, it's change. Change is constant. We can't avoid it. That means we need to work a bit harder to embrace the change. Number two, different people react differently to change. So some people like to be at the stability end of the spectrum. Some people like to move into change fast. Everyone has their own phase. When change happens, we are usually in a denial stage first. We don't want to embrace change. And then we move into limbo stage, which is we know the change is happening, but we are not ready to embrace yet. And then the third stage is change has happened, and a lot of people moved on, and we force ourselves to move into that direction. And my advice to my colleagues, to my teams, always, if we can skip the phase 1 and phase 2, the denial and limbo stages, and move into phase 3, we will make a big favor to our mental health, because we will just move into the change mindset, and then we don't let the change drag our emotions. We control the situation and we move on. The third biggest thing, most of the time, change involves a loss. So, for example, positive loss, you get promoted in your job, that's a change. So what you left behind is no longer good for you. So what you have now is a positive change, and it has been replaced with something better. But if someone is going through being redundant, unemployed, restructuring jobs, that is a loss, and it has a lot of consequences to it, such as income, job security, social position, working relationship, purpose that we have in our life. It can have a devastating effect. And it's not always easy to embrace that situation and accept the loss and move on. But I like this saying also, one door closes, another opens. And if we keep that in mind and think about the future in a more positive way, I think embracing change is possible. And finally, how we deal the fear. Like we create a lot of anxiety in our minds. We create a window it's full of logical thinking sometimes, and we think about also illogical consequences about change, and those fears need to be addressed. We need to look into them because it's important to have an income, it's important to have a job, it's important to have a purpose in life, and lack of these create fear. So you need to talk about that. You need to talk positively about why this change is happening and what can we learn out of it and how we can move on. So with my 22 years of experience in corporate cultures, from US to France to China to other parts of the world, Australia, I learned new things about change and how to handle change and how to be open to change. And I wrote that article to ask people if they have any stories to share and if they have any suggestions to add to my summary about embracing change. And today we are talking with you about that topic. So yeah, this is my summary about it. And if you have any perspective, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, look, thanks for that, Jeyan. Very interesting. As I say, anyone who wants to get in touch, please do. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
And thanks for having me.